This weekend, WWE is crowning a new World Heavyweight Champion. However, there are some people out there who feel that this belt is a mere consolation prize. And thinking that it is kind of sets progress back for a lot of wrestling fans. How? Well, that's the exact thing we're going to talk about, because today... Please support this channel by subscribing, and you could support it even further by signing up over on my Patreon page. Just like with Ra, the Reflex, and Dakari Garmin, and the rest of the amazing Patreon supporters, your help really does mean a lot. Look, I know the whole consolation prize thing has gained a lot of momentum in the echo chamber that is the internet, but just like with any other misconception, regurgitating some falsehood is only gonna keep us away from the truth. And so, let's just go ahead and talk about why this belt ain't no consolation prize. But before we do that, please make sure you're a member of the Know It All Nation by subscribing to this channel, as this is the channel for thinking fans. Anyway, with that being said, let's get into it. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a consolation prize is a prize given to a runner-up or a loser in a contest. And right there, right off the bat, we can dispel this whole thing just on definition alone, as the key to this is the word contest, because let's remember that this is professional wrestling and they're not actually competing for anything, as this is predetermined.
It's still real to me.
Wow, because that joke doesn't get old after all these years. Yup, I still find it funny too.
I still find it funny too, Electric Boogaloo.
I hate the internet. I know this is like the bummer version of the answer, but the reality is professional wrestling is scripted and the outcomes are predetermined. Nobody's competing for anything here, and as smart fans, we all know this. So let's stop pretending like this is in any way an actual competition. Furthermore, as I always say, the man makes the championship, not the other way around. So let's cut this nonsense out of so-and-so doesn't need it. That's the wrong mentality. This championship, just like any other title in professional wrestling, only means as much as what gets put into it. And so WWE needs to pick the right guy at the right time and give him the right push to make this championship matter. And if they do that right, while it may not be easy, it can mean just as much, if not more, than the titles that Roman Reigns has. Especially because professional wrestling is scripted, and just like any other scripted material, like any book, like any story, like any movie, how much any MacGuffin matters really all depends on the presentation. And presentation is a major part of the equation, especially when we look at things through a kayfabe lens. But fine, I understand there's still those of you out there who want to look at things from the other side. And so, even though we know that professional wrestling is not a legitimate contest, let's go back to that fictional world, because even here, the World Heavyweight Championship belt is still not a consolation prize. And speaking of the presentation, and while this will vary from person to person, I do feel the need to point out that championships matter on different levels to different people. And as for myself, there were times in my life where the WWF Intercontinental Championship meant more to me than the world title. Why? Because that was the title that I saw defended on a regular basis on regular TV. The World Championship was something that was reserved for pay-per-views, which as a kid, I didn't see on a regular basis. It was very rare. But as for weekly television, well, I got to see that all the time. And watching Bret Hart as a fighting champion really made that belt special to me. And going into this, the World Heavyweight Championship is going to be the belt that's going to be around more often, or at least that's what we were told. And so I think that this title is off to a pretty good start. Not to mention that it's already taking the lineage of the previous World Heavyweight Championship, which hasn't been around since 2013. I mean, hey, it'd be really nice if it carried the WCW lineage too, but I guess you can't ask for everything. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that if this championship gets defended on a regular basis, and even occasionally on episodes of Raw, and if we get banger match after banger match with all of our favorite wrestlers competing for it, then that will easily make it feel like more than just a mere consolation. And additionally, for me personally, I really don't even care about the Universal title in the first place. That belt has barely ever meant squat to me, with Kevin Owens' run being the only one that I ever actually cared about. Oh, and that day that Finn Balor had it. But speaking of which, I also have to ask, when the Universal title was first crowned, did anyone feel like that was a consolation prize? Or how about when the World Heavyweight Championship was brought back in the first place in 2002, where it was just handed to Triple H. I mean, somehow, even though JBL wound up becoming a long-reigning champion, he was the guy that was only considered the champion because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays, even though Hunter was the one who was just gifted the belt. But perhaps the reason why this happened is because that little phrase I said earlier really caught fire, and that came from Paul Heyman. And this is kind of the problem with a lot of fans online, as they tend to like to repeat something that sounds pretty clever, even if they don't stop to check to see if it's really true. Now sure, I'm not saying that Paul Heyman was wrong about JBL, and some of these phrases might have some truth to them, but as we're talking about the World Heavyweight Championship belt being a consolation prize, well that, as we're discussing, really ain't so. But that doesn't stop the internet from claiming that it's conventional wisdom. Still keeping kayfabe, another part of this story that just doesn't add up is the fans who say that this belt is for people who couldn't beat Roman. Now, even if we were going along with the idea that in kayfabe this is a consolation prize, then let's remember that the idea of just those who couldn't beat Roman or winning it isn't exactly so. And sure, in today's day and age where just about everyone has wrestled just about everyone else at least 100 times, there are going to be those who have counted the lights for Roman in the past. But as far as the modern day tribal chief is concerned, there are plenty of people who could win this championship who haven't jobbed out to Roman Reigns on television in the past 2 years. And two perfectly good examples of this are both AJ Styles and Seth Rollins. AJ Styles hasn't faced Roman in a long time, and I hope you remember that Seth Rollins technically won against Roman Reigns by disqualification at the Royal Rumble. And so while I know there are a lot of people on the internet who keep saying that there's no one left for Roman to beat, the reality is that's nowhere near the truth. Because during this title reign, there are some wrestlers who still haven't challenged Roman yet for the gold, and there are some who've never wrestled him at all. And for those of you out there who think that no one's built up enough to challenge Roman, well then allow me to remind you that's what booking is all about. Because did any of you take Sami Zayn as a serious world title contender when he was getting pinned by a giant mousetrap against Johnny Knoxville? Oh, and one more note for those people out there who feel that this belt is for people who can't beat Roman, then allow me to remind you that Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre only wound up jobbing because of outside interference from Solo Sikoa. So I don't think saying that they can't beat him in kayfabe is an accurate statement. Again, this all comes down to the power of creative. And WWE has just done such a great job of making you feel that Roman is dominant, even though that's not really accurate. But that's just another way that fans get fooled into thinking something's true when it isn't. Like with the World Heavyweight Championship being a consolation prize. Well, there you go. Why the World Heavyweight Championship is not a consolation prize. Please let me know what you think down in the comments, and be sure that you're subscribed to the Thinking Fans channel here at Dave Knows Wrestling. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my amazing Patreons out there. And as always, Dave knows